everyone. I think I finally, let me take a look here. Yeah. So I finally be able to go live today. I tried yesterday a few times and for some reason, Facebook and Zoom, they are not talk to each other. And then I found later that it was not just me. So I hope the problem was not between the chair and the computer. So today I want to talk to you about who am I? Who are those people around us? And I put the name of the live like the patchwork of you because that's pretty much what we are. We are a patchwork with different pieces that make us, the person we are. So if you are a religious person, you probably believe that there is a God. And like me, you probably believe that we are sons and daughters of Heavenly Father. And this make us, just by this, be able to be born, to be here, make us special. So we are sons and daughters of Heavenly Father, and we have this divine nature with us. That is something that make us unique, make us you, if you can follow with me. So if you take a patchwork, for example, I can take a square and cut in half and make what we call a half a square triangle. So imagine that it's you. You have different portions of you that made you, that make you unique. Um, and what I want to convey with that is we are all different. And sometimes I don't say hit, but we do not treat ourselves the most kind way because we are not the smarter, the richer, that have the most amazing house or garden or have the most talent. And all of this doesn't matter. What matter it is what you do with what you have and what you are. So you are a person that have a lot of different emotions, for example. And I cannot say that one emotion is bad and the other one it is even better because all of them are important. I don't know what exactly happiness mean if I did not experience the sorrow. I cannot say that I'm extremely excited for something if I did not experience discouragement. So, like this little piece of patchwork here, emotions in life in us, we have opposition in everything. And that's what makes life beautiful. That's what makes life worth to live. So sometimes we just want to suppress the bad emotion. But what we really need it is learn how to feel our emotions, learn how to sit with that emotion that sometimes it is uncomfort. Try to understand it. Try to welcome because when the good emotion come, we already know how to do it. Okay, so that's what I mean with, do you know who you are? Do you know what is the emotions that made you you? Do you know what is your personality? Do you even know that personality can be changed? You can mold the personality. You can shape your personality the way you desire if you are not happy with what you have right now. You also result of your experiences in life. You are a result of your habits, the people that you relate with, the relationships you have in your life. So all of those aspects in life help make you you. And why it is important to know that? First, to know who you are and where you stand helps you to better plan for a tomorrow, a better tomorrow, and also help to you to live the now with more intention, with more passion, if you will. If you also know who you are much more able to succeed in your goals because you know yourself. You know your limitations, you know your strengths, and you know that some days we can do 100 tasks, and the other days we just do one, and that is fine. It's totally fine. The important it is what we become through the journey. Is not exactly the single point in my path to life. So if you feel discouraged today, if you feel that you are overweight, overeating, over stress, over whatever, just know that is part of life. And that experience also can help you become someone stronger, someone that has empathy, that knows how to help the other person around you because you experience as well. Because it's different to say, oh, I'm sorry that you're going through this, and have someone to you and say, I feel your pain. I know what you're going through, and it's going to be okay. So we needed to get in a place of peace and even curiosity about our experiences. Right now, we are living one very crazy experience worldwide that we're going through a pandemic in my 39 years of life. Wow, I'm 39. Anyway, 39 years of life. I never experienced that before. And it is hard, it is difficult, it is, ah, some days I just want to yell. But at the same time, it is amazing. It is fulfilling because I can have my family with me. It is rewarding for the things that I can learn because I'm home. It is whatever I want to make it be. So learn who you are, learn where you stand, and then you will be able to move forward and have a glorious future. So that's my message for you guys. And why this message of we are made of little pieces? We also gonna learn today how to make ba, 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 a table runner that is a patchwork one. So we're gonna teach you how to cut all the pieces, put the pieces together, everything that you need to do. Okay. So let's go to our table to get to this fun task right now. Right now you are seeing my table from the upper view. And what you see there, it is material that we're gonna need to do this project, okay? You're probably gonna need a ruler here. Let me see if I can move my camera just a tiny bit in that direction. It's a little better for you guys to see. You're gonna need a ruler. If you're gonna use a ruler, you're gonna need one of those guys here. That's a rotary cutter. And you can use any kind of ruler. It can be this very narrow one that's mostly used to make, let's see if you can see here better, to mark seam allowances. Can be a square ruler, can be the long ruler, short ruler, any ruler that you have that measure at least 6 inches, okay? Or you can use your measure tape as well. with a scissor and something to mark it on, okay? You're gonna need a thread, preferable a thread that matches the fabric that you're gonna use. That's my thread here. And you're gonna need cotton fabric. So after I measure everything and I calculate that you're gonna need at least 1.5 of the print fabric and 1.5 yards of the solid color. My color is not extremely solid, but the different color that you're gonna use, okay? So let me clean up here this table a little bit. And some pins if you want it. So first we're gonna measure of fabric. You're gonna need make little squares that's gonna measure 5 by 5, meaning 5 inches by 5 inches. So we're gonna have a square that size here. That's what the size of the square that you're gonna make, okay? And how do I like to cut that? You can cut the way you feel most comfortable with, but I like to take my fabric and measure, take my fabric here. Let me show you. Come here in my cutting board. See? Line up. I'm gonna measure 5 inches, and then I'm gonna cut a long strip that is a 5 inch wide. Okay? Like this strip here that I already did cut. So these two strips are very long. They're 40 inches long if you open each one. And I'm gonna cut, and that is 5 inches wide. So what I'm gonna do right now, it is I'm gonna cut my squares by making cuts every 5 inches, okay? And every 5 inches, I'm gonna cut another piece. So each strip here gonna give me 8 squares. Those two long strips are gonna give me 16 squares. That is the amount of squares that I'm gonna need to make my patchwork block. Okay. So I'm gonna do that so you guys have an idea what I'm doing. Okay. So cut. And I'm usually gonna have a little bit of fabric extra. That is totally fine. I think I needed to change my blade. Anyway, see, this way you save time by cutting all the squares. I really need to change my blade. All the squares that you need for your patchwork. Now what we're gonna do, we're gonna take those squares and we're gonna pair up. We're gonna put one solid color with one rich color. And I'm gonna use right sides together, okay, like this. Pair, turn it to the side that you can better see a mark, and you're gonna use a pencil. Okay, and I'm gonna make a line in a diagonal, whatever diagonal you choose. I just need to have a line that goes from one tip to the other tip. Okay, can you see here? I don't know, my light is too light. Let me use something a little bit more strong so you can see better. I I can totally see, it's okay, but I want you guys to be able to see as well. So you're gonna come and I'm gonna mark. Now you can see it. See? You can do this from tip to tip in the diagonal, or you can take a ruler like this one here, mark tip to tip, and then you line up the very line in the center here, and then you mark here a quarter of an inch, and then another quarter of an inch. Why? Because I'm not going sewing in this middle line. I'm gonna sew a quarter an inch distance from this middle line here, okay? So if you wanna mark um, your line that you're gonna sew on top, you can, or you can just do like this, and with your presser foot, you can adjust and sew half or a quarter of an inch distance between the center line, okay? You're gonna do that for all of your squares, okay? I'm gonna turn a little bit here my camera so you can see when finish. After finish, that's gonna be the result. When I sew here, after sew, I'm gonna cut in the middle, and then I'm gonna have two half square triangles, okay? Well, I'm gonna show you how to do this guy to come to here. Anyway, so you're gonna make this mark in all your triangle, all your squares. Don't need it to be both sides, just one side is good enough because you just need to see in one side. So let me clean up here this area to bring my sewing machine so you guys can have a better view of what's going on the machine when you are sewing this beautiful half square. That's why I call half square triangle. So remember, when we take your machine, you usually need to thread it up. By now, I believe you guys already know how to do it. So you're gonna pass all the marks you have in your machine, and then you're gonna thread the needle. You're gonna make sure your bobbin has enough thread for your project. If not, I really recommend you fill your bobbin. Otherwise, you're gonna need to stop in the middle of the project to do so. And that is annoying. Just saying. So let me change here the camera so you guys can see what is happening in my sewing machine. Let me see, maybe I need to get just a teeny bit closer. Maybe I can have a better view. So, did you remember our sewing machine in this plate have different marks in here? You can come and look for, let's see if you can see better. You can come and looking for a quarter an inch mark, or you can use a quarter an inch presser foot that is different for each kind of machine, but every machine has, see, you can come with a foot. They have the distance between the middle of the position of the needle to the end of the presser foot, gonna measure quarter of an inch. You can do that. You can use the lines here, or you can even put a tape on your machine. That's what I would like to recommend. And in my machine, the distance between my needle to this margin here makes a quarter of an inch. 6 miles. for me, okay? And why is this so important? Because you want all your seam allowances to be exactly the same size. This way, you're gonna guarantee, or at least more, um, make possible, let's say, that you're gonna have all the intersections together when you're gonna come and put all the squares. Can you see here? So you'll be able to make a nice shape with where you don't have anything offset. You needed to follow this rule of the quarter of the inch. Okay, so if you decide to just make the line in the middle here, that's what we're gonna do. I'm gonna mark quarter-inch distance from, because I already measured my presser feet. The position when my presser foot, my needle come to the end of my presser foot, is a quarter of an inch. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna line up this end here with my presser foot exactly on top of this line. Okay, put it down, presser foot. I like to have my line down so if I move I can come back to the position right instead without any jumps on my wow, today was being hard to remember the name of seam allowance. Oh goodness. Anyway, so now what we're gonna do, we're gonna start to sew. You press your pedal. I like to anchor my stitch, but many people that do this kind of work, they do not. They don't need it. And because afterwards those ends here gonna be so on top of something else. But I like to do it. You can choose what works best for you. I am using my normal stitch, that in my case is 3.5, and in the zero position. You can use your regular stitch, or you can use one or half size smaller, so you can guarantee that when you're moving around, your stitches is not going to open. You don't want bigger stitches, because then you don't want to have a very secure structure to work with. Okay, so then you're going to sew. See, if you take a look, the tip of my square that has this line coincides exactly with my marker here of the quarter of an inch, my tape. Okay, then you're gonna sew till the end. What I like to secure as well. You can cut your thread to turn around, or you can just pull it and turn around. Okay, my machine has a self-cut thread, so I like to cut this last thread in my life. The same thing you do for the other side. I sew one side, now I need to sew to the other side. Okay, same procedure. Follow my line to the end. Okay, that's how you're gonna sew your squares. Let's see. I'm gonna sew all your squares. Okay, afterward, we're gonna cut in this line here in the middle, and you're gonna have two different half triangles. Okay, so let me show what to do when you have your sewing allowance mark in your material. Carefully, you can adjust the square so all the extremities match. So when you have your sewing allowance mark, instead of you guide yourself through the middle, you're gonna guide yourself through the mark. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna look in my machine and make sure that my needle is hitting this little line that's marked a quarter of an inch. okay? Let me see if I can move a little closer here, you guys can see. Moving my quarter of an inch, and I make sure all the way down my needle and it's hitting this line. Go and back. And the same thing I do for the other side. Okay? Turn around, putting my needle down in the position of my line, and anchor my stitch, which I'm almost forgetting. And keep going. So you're gonna do that for all of your squares. And you can ask me how many squares you're gonna need to make a table runner. I don't know exactly the size of your table, but I'm making my table runner with 5 blocks, okay? In each block, I use 16 squares, okay? So that's the sewing that we're gonna be doing on those triangles right now. I already cut a few ones, and so just to make this line a little bit shorter, otherwise we're going to be here forever. So if you can see here, those are all half square triangles that was cut for this project. But before I get here, I need first to do a little cut, okay? I can come with my scissor and cut it here in the middle. Top of the line, but give me 2 half square triangles. Can you see here? I can use my blade to cut, to do this same job, same principle, following the line. I'm gonna have it. And what I need to do with this, now that I have those little guys cut, I need to iron. I usually press a thing, the stuff that I do, but because this is in the bias, and if I press a thing here or pull too much, I'm gonna make my square, distort or change its shape, and I don't want that. I want my squares to be squares. What I can do it is, I just go and give a little squishy to put in place, okay? Little squish and put in place. And the nice thing to remember, it is not crucial, but if you can remember, it is to, when you go iron or press this little thing, remember to have half of the squares with this seam allowance towards the plain fabric and the other half towards the printed one that you want to work with. Because afterward, when we start to put these squares together, I can have a nest situation here that is like this. See, this is a nest. When my two seam allowance go in a different position, this nests perfectly and giving me a very nice and accurate tip sewing. Okay, so then you're gonna take a hot iron and you're gonna press. First dry, and then we give some steam on it. Press dry, and then steam. And you're gonna do for all your squares. So remember, 16 half square triangles makes 1 block. And you're gonna need at least 4 or 5 blocks to make your table run, okay? So after press, see, my piece is pressed. I'm gonna have these little ears here they call dog ears. What you're gonna do is take your scissor or your blade and just cut it off. You don't want this extra fabric uh, in your life. So, and that's how you're gonna have an amazing, nice half a square. See, cut all the ears out. Okay, and then you're gonna be ready to have some fun putting together your half square triangles. Like your emotions and experiences you have in life, everything can be a matter of the perspective. A person can see a situation, the same situation you're going through, as a moment of learning and blessing, or not. And what I mean with that, I think you're going to be able to see it when I show you how we put together these um, shapes here. So you can do so much stuff with half square triangles. And the most fun of them is the possibility of change the shapes just by change the position that you turn your shape in and out. So let me open a little space here and I'm gonna show you what I meant by that. Let me move it here. So that is the configuration that I'm doing right now. Let me see if it's gonna fit here with my machine. Can you see? It's organized in a way that's gonna give me two inside triangles. One in a plain color and one with my stamp or different color. Because you can make with another plain. The important it is to be two different colors, okay? Or you can even use many different fabrics that we make kind of a rainbow around here with your plain color. So that's one configuration. And you see, all made by half square triangles put together. If you want to take a picture or a screenshot, you can. That is what we're gonna use today. But if you just move my squares a little bit, can you see what's gonna happen here? I can have a completely different completely different uh, shape. Okay, what I did. I get lost. I get lost. Oh yeah, that's what I'm trying to say. See, I can have in a structure that's gonna give me totally different shape and giving me a totally different kind of patchwork. But if you remember, it is exactly the same squares in exactly the same fabric. So it's like situations in your life. You can see the situation in many different angles. And the angle you choose to live your life, if it's a positive or negative one, can make a lot of difference. See? That's a different shape. And if I play a little bit more, I can even have even different configuration here. See? Completely different. Uh, Sometimes I get lost in my amount of ideas. And then you have something that looks more like a fly geese. That's very additional. Good. You see? And so you can be playing around and choose what you want to have. Play and say, now maybe I just want to have something more like that. Like and nice. Instead of play with the and then you can keep playing until you find your desired pattern. That's a different one. So I have the same situation, but I just put different here. Let's say was my thought. So because I thought something different about these squares, I get a different result. Can give me a different emotion. And all of this is life. Okay, guys? So let me see if I can remember what is my original shape because I think I just forgot. Uh, this, and then I have this guy here, and this guy goes down, and I'm making a triangle with a triangle in a triangle. That's what I'm making. See? That's it is the one I'm using for my table runner. And what are we gonna do from now on? So I'm gonna keep my 16 squares there, the way you were seeing. And I'm gonna start to sew like these two together, then these two together, these two together, these two together. And then I sew these two together, these two, and so on. And when they are sewed together, I can come and sew through the middle. Okay, in the process of doing this, I also need to respect my half-inch seam allowance. So let's pick up here our first two, come in that position. Let me just make a teeny bit come in that position. I just going to turn around, match the ends of the squares. Put it together. And then I'm gonna sew a half, oh, what half? Quarter-inch seam allowance all the way down. Be careful to don't be pulling those fabrics because everything here it is on the bias, okay? So again, I line up my edge of my presser foot with the edge of my square. And so what I can do is I can leave it as a square here and come with the next two squares that was on top of this little guy and do exactly the same process. it together. Be careful to remember where to sew, okay? So you don't want to end up with wrong position. I need to sew this side, not that side, because when I open, I need to have this shape here. So I just turn around, hold the side that I needed, put in the position of my machine. Again, line. Go to my next one, and I will be repeating this process until I finish my first column. Or if you prefer, you can mark everything by lines. Some people get better notion when you sew first line and then the second line. That is totally up to you. Line up here, all the way down. And if you notice, everything is keeping being holding here. And you're gonna see why this can be beneficial for us in a moment. Let me take two more here. And let's keep this little guy going nice and smooth. Remember, don't be pulling it so your fabric do not deform, okay? What you want it is a nice and flat patchwork. Okay. So then you're gonna have in the end this line here. And if you open this line, and if you guys open this line here, let me see if I can show you. You're gonna see a pattern. Still, you're gonna see half of a pattern to be true. Can you see here? Oops. Half of the pattern, the triangle. And that is good because in later I just needed to fold like this. Nest my seam allowance, one for one side, another for the other one. And sew all the way down. Here I don't have a way to get lost anymore. Okay? So let me do this. Since I'm here, I'm gonna put those guys together. And I'm gonna make sure one seam allowance is coming to one side and the other seam allowance is coming to the other side. And instead of align everything through the edge here, I align everything through the place they needed to match. That is this intersection here. See? They needed to match here. So I align here, and then when it hits a line, I come to the end. Usually they're gonna match perfectly. But if you're not, you can make sure that in the seam allowance you are matched correctly. Okay. So put all those pieces together. And sew to the end. Visitor in the middle of the live complain about sister something in the game. What is your name?
Max has really long hair because she has a really long hair because you need to cut her hair.
And you guys can figure the hair out later, okay?
No, I'm saying Maria.
Por favor, when we finish it here, I'm gonna see it. You guys gonna be here, some screaming is going on because little guy didn't like something that happened in the game. Yeah, line up and line up. Put them together, line it up, and so all the way down. Again. And then you're gonna sew all the 16 squares. Okay, guys? I'm gonna take a little time here until I finish this square, especially because maybe hear my kiddos yelling. Sometimes I get disconcentrated, or how to say that, distracted. And that was little me. And line everything in the middle. Make sure we put something here. If you notice it, there we go. If you notice it in the end, it's gonna have a little bit difference. Just because they probably get some coloring there. Just like when you pull for different sites, sometimes we get different results. See? I don't know if you guys can see it. I can see it. It's a teeny bitty difference. But if you follow this process, be careful to don't be pulling your fabric for any direction. So you keep this as nice and flat as can be. Even a little squishy. Even a little squishy here. Just to keep everything in place. Okay. Now that this half is ready, I'm gonna do the other half. Exactly the same way. I'm gonna take 2 by 2, sew together. Just making sure here I am looking to the right place to sew. And I'm gonna keep all my pieces, my needle. To thread down. Usually do that sewing too, but it's a problem today, machine. Today my machine don't want to collaborate. What can I say? Let's remove this here. Okay. And my kids keep yelling. Huh? How cool is that? More way to see that we are alive. Let me close the door to see for the fights of Nephites and Lamanites gets contained in the living room. to the end. And I'm gonna take the other squares and doing the same. Okay. Always careful to don't be pulling the squares. Otherwise you're gonna get difference on the end result. Keep in mind that you need to keep all the seam allowance exactly the same size. When you do that, we are able to get a much more sharp matching, let's say, matching positions, and then our pictures usually get a better finishment. All the way down. You guys can see it because my hand is here. Again. Then what I like to do is to cut everything together. I cut everything together, I iron everything together, cut all the pieces together. But I just put together one block at a time. And then I sew one block at a time. That helped me don't get lost what I'm doing with the blocks. Okay? If you guys take a look at it again, that's gonna be the other side, the other half. Let's see, the other half of the my block of two triangles, one triangle inside the other. You see? Oops, oops. That's the other half. Now what I'm gonna do it is I'm just gonna fold it here down. Make sure that I'm matching on the intersections. And again, one seam allowance for one side and the other seam allowance for the other side. And then I align everything, go to the machine, and start to sew again. And I did something that my thread came out of the needle again. I don't know what is this today. So let's just say yesterday I was trying to go live, guys, at 4 p.m. And everything that was possible to go wrong went wrong. So the Facebook didn't load, Zoom did not connect with Facebook when the Facebook finally loaded. And then when the Facebook connected, when Facebook and Zoom finally connected, my my cameras just shut it down. And I was like, oh my gosh, what just happened? And then I went to look, and the cameras needed to be charged. And I was like, seriously? And then I said, okay, I can do it maybe with my phone. I can plug my microphone in the phone and I do the live anyway. And I think this is not so for some reason. And then what I find was that my microphone also uh, need to be charged because it shuts down in the middle of my process to put the live together. And I was like, okay, universe, gotcha. You don't want me to do live today. I don't know why. I'm gonna try tomorrow. Let's do cookies with the kids. So I went to the kitchen with my kids and we made some cookies. And hopefully we're gonna decorate today without too much screen and fights around the table. Who knows, huh? That's my hope. Be able to decorate the cookies today. So one more done. I hope I'm not frozen. Did you guys can see me or Facebook just bell on me again? I hope you guys can see that. What is happening? Apparently I am totally froze. I hope not. Really hope not. See? If someone is watching, could you guys tell me if you guys are seeing or seeing frozen? What is happening? See here, by matching this position, make sure you are following here. See, they came for this side, so you keep this side, and this one that is the new, I put for the other side. It's just a little tip. Otherwise, you're gonna have something that goes like different sides and make not so flat in the end. And we always want a flat as possible. And you could ask me, why you guys that to do quilt keep everything as flat as possible? Because meaning that you don't gonna have your patchwork distort. So if you can keep it flat as possible, better is the result you get. And we can do that by follow the simple rule of keep the same distance for all of the seam allowance. Because if you are using half an inch, use a half an inch for everything. If you are using a quarter of an inch, that is the measure of the seam allowances for patchworks, you needed to use a quarter of an inch for everything. So that is my other tip. I don't have a problem if you decided to sew with a full inch seam allowance. Just making sure you put the seam allowance in your calculation when you're doing things, and keep the same seam allowance until you finish your project. Okay? If I use a quarter of an inch seam allowance for a project like this, I need to finish all my sewing in a quarter of an inch seam allowance. Okay, and then how they look. And you can say here, oh, but I see this different little coming through this side. But when I sew the other piece here, that is also a quarter of an inch, that's gonna give me a sharp finish edge, okay? So what you need to do right now is you're gonna need to iron. And one of my students one day was saying me, oh my gosh, I didn't know that to sew you need to iron so much. But yes, to get a good end result, you need to have a good ironing skills as well. Why? Because ironing is part of the process to sew. If you guys didn't know that, that's a true that you learn when you go learn sewing a little bit more deep. Okay, so what you're gonna do is first you're gonna see where is my seam allowance going. On one side, I go and follow exactly the same rule. If I take this piece and put all my seam allowances up, I'm gonna try to do into this one, my seam allowance to go down. So when I put them together, they match. See? Let's look here in the back. Remember, when you are working with things that are cut on the bias, less you stretch, the better. Because more you're gonna stretch and pulling this around, what needed for in the project. And in the end, that's not gonna look the way you want it. Okay, so that's one size. I'm gonna look here. That's gonna be the other size. So this one was all up. Now this one gonna come all down. Let me even show you the back. See, one is up, the other one is down. So when I do this junction here does not look so bulky. First, I do it dry and then I use a steam to put everything down together. Okay? So what I'm gonna do now it is I'm gonna take this middle line here and match with this middle line here. And because we did let me see if I did it right. Yeah, I'm going up, the other is going down. Because we did this to make sure we're gonna nest, that's what's gonna happen. We're gonna line up this guy here in the middle. Because now I have a little bigger piece, I like to put a little pin in place. And then I'm gonna match the other ones together. See? Look here. I'm gonna show you in the camera closer. Because I probably pull my project in some direction here. I don't have all of my seams matching the way I desire. That's why it is important to be careful when you're pulling your project too much. Even in the iron time, sometimes we pull a little bit more than we should. And skadoosh, say pull. Kung Fu Panda. That I was watching with my kids the other day. See, I'm trying to see if those seams allowance I'm nesting. In this case, it is not, but because I'm a little tight here, I can come here in the middle just to be able to move my seam allowance to the other side. It's going to make a better result. See? Now they are nesting. And sometimes I find that one of those seams seems to be a little bit off. Probably did not follow my own rule of respect. I put an inch seam allowance. Okay. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna come with my machine back again. And first I will reinforce my quarter inch that I did not follow as much. And then I'm gonna put all the pieces together, okay? And with this, we're gonna have a block. And then you're gonna ask me, oh my gosh, all this time, just one block. Yes. Sewing is also an art. I usually use sewing as a way of reflection. It is my moment that I'm in a sewing machine or creating something new or different. It is usually the moment when I find answers for things that I'm looking for. Maybe because my mind is not on those things that I'm worried about, the answer are able to come. Oops, I thought I have changed the camera, guys. So sorry. So we are back here in the sewing machine, and like I told you, this little seam allowance was teeny beeny, teeny beeny off. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna line up here together again, and I'm gonna make sure, yes, it was off. I am in the right path. Something about sewing machines and threads. Try always use the best thread you can find so you can keep your sewing machine running smoothly. A quality thread does not um, end with a lot of fiber in the end, so you're going to be cleaning lots of little fiber in the end, so will give your project much more stronger and better look. It is a maybe a millimeter, the difference. But in the moment to put together, it does make a difference. Okay? So let me see if you can see it. The white one is my older line, and the golden one is the new one. You see the difference? Almost none. But when I open now here to put this together, now they nest, and before it did not. So, like the scripture says, you can, small things can brought to pass marvelous and big things. See here? Now they are nesting, and before it was not. So then I nest my seams nice and tight right now. Keep attention for my quarter of an inch. Make sure everything is matching. And remember, I am lining everything from the middle line. Okay. You're gonna see why in a second. And then we're gonna sew all the way down. Remember not to sew on top of the pins. So remember, move your little pin. It's kind of time to remove your stuff. Best you can. This one also just toward a little bit. You can just adjust. Make sure my seams are matching. when you finish this, it's gonna be time to iron. It's gonna be the last time that you guys gonna iron. You see? Perfect. Triangle on a triangle. So what I'm gonna do now is iron this piece. And then if you notice it, there is little bit of differences all the way around. So what I'm gonna do is taking my ruler, I'm gonna line my ruler in this line here in the middle. And every little difference that is on the top, I cut in the borders, okay? So then I have a very nice and a square block. That is a block for your table runner. And your table runner gonna be composed of all your 5 blocks that you're gonna sew together. I already have 4 blocks together here. You see? When you put the blocks together, how beautiful they look. So what I'm gonna do is I will iron this guy and then attach to that guy there. Okay? And by doing this, I'm gonna have my top of the table runner ready. And we're gonna learn how to finish this beautiful table runner tomorrow. And I hope to see you tomorrow in this live. And I'm gonna show you how we put the block together and how we finish. We put a back on this little guy here, and also I forgot the name, the middle make soft, and how to put the binding around of the table run. Okay, I just don't want to make this live too long. So see you later, guys, and I hope you have enjoyed it.